guys enjoy today's session.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna, as people are joining, I'm just gonna drop a couple of prompts into the chat because I would love to know kind of where you all are at with your storytelling, but specifically the software that you're using and the challenges that you're coming across, because today I'm going to be speaking about my content creation system as something that I think any organization can adopt, um, and using a lot of the tools that you're already using. So my first question is going to be about the tools that you're using. So I'm going to drop this prompt, and then just feel free to use the chat to reflect or share any information that you'd like. So which apps are you using to create content for your organization? Is it Canva? Is it CapCut? Adobe Express or Creative Cloud or something else or nothing else? I'd love to know. A lot of Canva I was expecting, which is good. We're going to be speaking about that today. And then I have a second prompt, and you can feel free um, to continue answering the apps question, the software question. But as those answers come in, I have one more prompt, which is about your challenges, right? What are some of the challenges that you're facing with content creation and reaching the right audience? Is it the time to create? Is it cutting through the noise? Is it something else? I'd love to know. Yeah, the effectiveness is a big thing. It's like we can scream into the void, but how do we get people to act, right? How do we get people to actively support the organization? And as you're just coming in, we do have a couple of prompts here. The first one is about the tools that you use to create content, Canva, CapCut, Creative Cloud. Um, then the second one is about any challenges that you're facing, whether in terms of content creation and storytelling, reaching the right audience, the time to create content. So feel free to drop that into the chat, and we'll just get started in one moment. I'm hearing a lot about effectiveness, which we're going to talk about. Okay, so I'm very flattered that you all joined me today, but I know that you are not here because of me necessarily. You're here because we all know one thing to be true, which is that reaching the right audiences with our organization's impact story is critical for fulfilling our mission as an organization. And it's also a challenge, right? Because we are dealing with cratering, organic reach on social media, and noise, and AI slop, and daily content demands. And what I'm hearing from a lot of folks is the real core of the goal, which is how do we turn uh, these stories, this content, into actual action from supporters. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I am Joey Azulay. I am the founder and the creative director of Stakeholder Video, and we specialize in turning stakeholder interviews, program alums, donors, board members, staff, executive directors. We take those stakeholder interviews and we turn them into content libraries. And those content libraries are used by cross-functional teams. So whether you're in development or marketing, or you're an organization of two people, you can dip into this centralized content library and tell your story to specific audiences. And the reason what I'm going to show you here today is the result of me realizing that I made a mistake along the way in terms of how I help support organizations. Or not a mistake, but I left a lot on the table in terms of I have always designed my my content creation processes, working with dozens of nonprofit organizations, running media teams, building um, high profile marketing campaigns, and always gatekeeping my process. Not because I felt like other people shouldn't have it, but because I thought of myself as an expert. I thought of myself as an expert with a skill set that I have earned over years and decades, and that I couldn't possibly just hand over what I do to somebody else. Um, and I realized that that is not true, and also less and less true as the tools that we have access to become more affordable, easier to use. Um, and so I asked myself this question when I realized this, because I can't as a consultant, as an agency, I can't work with every nonprofit. But what I can do is share what I've learned about my the content system, the content production and development system that I created through all of these dozens and dozens of projects, that I think any organization can adopt to make their content operation both more efficient, especially over time, and also more effective by telling the same impact story over and over again in 1,000 different ways in two specific audiences. And so that's what I'm going to walk you through today. Um, so I want to show you the result. I know a lot of people have mentioned Canva. Makes perfect sense because Canva is free for nonprofits to use, which is amazing, and also why it's absolutely the standard in our sector. And again, this is one of those things where, as an Adobe user, as a professional user, is like, Canva. It's like all those yucky templates, and like Canva has helped put a lot of um, bad looking design out into the world, but it did something way more important, which is it gave organizations of any size access to design software that really works. And so I flipped my process on its head and said, like, what if we used Canva as the basis of everything that we do? How would we do that and still maintain the quality and the standards that we're used to? So I just want to show you what we're leading to here as an end result. And I'm really very curious to hear from you all how you are using and organizing your Canva, especially after seeing this. So here's kind of the end goal is you open up your Canva and you have a library of assets that you can use and build over time, organized by format or other types, and that every time you go and create a new design, create a new story, create a new social media post, a new video, something for your website, an email campaign, you're not starting from where did I put that thing, or starting from a blank page, or digging through old designs and trying to see what you can like rob from those designs and using your new ones. A system where you're actually, I think of this as like a content workshop, and you've got all of these well organized little drawers. I love little drawers that are organized and labeled. And you open one of those drawers and it's got all these little components that you can use. And beyond that, you've got, and this is especially important, you've got all of these story clips, right? All these story clips that are um, interview clips from stakeholders of your organization, whether it's program alumni or donors or board members or partners, and you open up one of these folders and you've got a story clip in here, and every single clip in here speaks to your impact.
As a kid, you're like, writing that sucks, reading that sucks. Uptown Stories as a whole community brings that kindling to the fire to say, you know what, actually here, there is a beautiful side of this in you that's not like, something your teacher says that you have to do it with everybody else and it has to be the same. And
And when you go to create anything new, um, like for example, a video for social media, you've got, of course, all these templates and all the stock images, nothing that says anything about your organization. But if you go to your uploads button and you go to your folders, you've got your story assets, all the little components ready for you to go. You can drop your clip in, you can drop your design elements in, and so on. And what this does is basically make the content first, the challenge is what is the story to tell, right? That's a little bit not about what this topic is, although I talk about it in some of my courses. But once you are clear about what your story, and doing these interviews is going to help you be clear about these stories. Um, when you're telling the right story, now you can tell the right story more efficiently over time. Experiment, try new formats, try new things, but you're always grounded in the lived experience of the actual stakeholders of your organization. So that's the idea. And now I want to kind of show you how we do that. And let's see. So, and we're talking about, not just one stakeholder, but your program alumni, your board members, corporate partners, your staff, your leadership story. If you're leading your organization, like what is it that brought you to this mission? And so these are the questions that I ask in all of my interviews. And you can also conduct these interviews if you're not already, and you can do so using the tool that we're using right now as we speak, which is Zoom. You can schedule uh, a program participant or a program alumni or a parent if you're working with students or any stakeholder of your organization, put them on your calendar for an hour, ask them thoughtful questions, deep dive questions. You can even start with three basic questions. What is your connection to this organization's mission, your personal connection? How has the organization personally impacted you? And also, what impact have you witnessed personally in the organization? If you ask people those three questions, and in my guides and my courses, I have a list of oftentimes like 20 questions that I would ask for a stakeholder. You will your impact story will come out of these interviews. You'll be clearer about how to tell your impact story. You'll also be clearer about your stakeholders themselves. You'll understand them better. You'll build deeper relationships because you gave them the space to tell their story. And again, it looks just like this. It looks just like what we're doing now. And it can sound like this.
You could get my mom going about Kate for God knows how long. But so it was just the end. It was such a positive thing in my life that was starting to happen. So I actually remember, my first round table where where Kate gathers the.
So I did this interview with an app called Riverside because it gives me better quality. You can do the same thing with Zoom. You take that interview and you maybe 45 minutes, right? Half an hour with this person, and then bring it into video editing software and start identifying the themes that came out of the interview. Now, I want to start by saying that I understand that video editing can be intimidating, and that the tools can be like so rich that you get lost in them. Um, how many people, just by a show of raise of hands, have heard of Descript or text-based video editing in general? If you want to raise a hand or put something in the chat, if you have heard about Descript, I see one person, two people. Um, Three people, looks like. And maybe I missed a few. Don't have everybody on the screen. So what Descript started, and a lot of actually other apps have adopted as well, is this idea of text-based editing. So you're basically editing video the way that you would edit a Google Doc. It's basically the transcript of your video here, as if it's like a Google Doc, except that if I highlight something, first of all, if I click somewhere, it will take me to the part of the video. Um, so for example, I can come in here and search for
The
something.
saying is oftentimes kids are stripped of their innocence. It's Also, kids are stripped of their creativity and their love for writing and reading.
So you can load up, let's say you do an interview on Zoom, you end up with a file, right? That's your half hour, your 45 minutes. You go ahead and you upload it, you create a new project, right? So I can go to my projects, create new projects, video project. You start here and you drop that file right in here. Or you can click here. Oops, not that button. You can click here and it'll bring up your browser window and you can upload that file, right, that you got from Zoom. What you end up with, what you end up with, and Isabella, I know you raised your hand, I think because you were asking about, or you were saying that you've heard of Descript, or did you have a question? Just let me know. Um, okay, so you go and upload that and into a project, and you end up with your video over here and the transcript over here, right? You now have everything that you talked about in your interview. You can highlight things and annotate them, leave comments, and my main process here is identifying all of the story themes, all of the individual stories that, in this case, Sienna, Uptown Story's oldest program alum, all the little stories that she told, I'm going to identify them. I'm going to identify them in this transcript. And I will have an organized set of little tiny stories that I can refer back to over and over again, loaded up in this transcript. And then at any point I want to, and let me just show you an example. Let's say I go, okay, here's a great story. You know, the saying is kids are stripped of their innocence. And also, it gives a kid a respect that they won't necessarily receive in society at that age. To me, this is a beautiful standalone story. And by the way, this doesn't have to stay as video. This can become inspiration for a quote poster. This can be inspiration for a blog post. This is just a starting point. But okay, I've identified this. I could come in here and I could first of all highlight it, right? So I could highlight it to find it in the future. I could leave a note and say like about how school uh, takes kids' passion for writing. All right, so I can stay organized like this. My team can see what I'm thinking. Uh, And now I can take this little clip. This is what we're looking at is my full 40, I think it's almost an hour, 43-minute interview. And now I'm going to right click here and duplicate this to a composition, new composition. And now it's going to open up a little video, the exact thing that we're seeing, but just this piece that I grabbed, right?
Saying is oftentimes kids are stripped of their innocence. Uh,
And now I can go ahead and export this to Canva. I can go ahead and publish this. I don't want this as a video link. I want this as a local export. I'm going to export this. I'm going to put this just on my desktop for argument's sake. I could, of course, continue in here. I could come in here and edit this. I could maybe change this to like a portrait and make sure that it fills the portrait like that. And I can come in here and add even some captions over here and make them bigger. And I can continue to create this video. I could even upload images and add them to here and so on. The reason why in this case I'm not suggesting to do that is because what I want to use this because Descript is so good and so fast at taking a long form video and identifying the individual thematic stories or clips in here. Oh, and I didn't even show you maybe the coolest thing in terms of saving you time, which is, if I go back to my projects, I can come in here and go to AI tools and actually go to this section here called create clips. And I can tell it the number of clips. In this case, I'm just going to say one. I'm going to say the clip duration is 30 seconds, and I'll give it a format of this social clip. It's just a template, and I will submit. Right? And I can do this for one video. I can do this for 5 videos, depending on how my account level. Because every one of these operations uses AI credits. But now, look, I have my, am I happy with this? I'm going to press done. And now I've got a pre-made video here from from a clip that I didn't even have to identify. AI did.
It's that experience at such a young who empowers young writers like that. I've
So I could do that in here. But what I'm doing in this case for this tutorial is I am exporting that video, right? And then I'm uploading it into Canva, which is my hub for all my creation, right? So Descript in this case, Descript is how I identify all those raw clips. It goes into my story assets folder under story clips, under the specific type of stakeholder that I'm talking about, so that I know if I'm creating for a certain audience, what audience I want to create for. And then I have my story bank, which is all of the videos, um, graphics, photos, everything that I've created for my organization, organized by audience, funders, program participants, school partners, your internal audience, your staff, your community, your donors, right? And um, and you come in here and all of your assets that you've ever created are in here. So your uploads folder has two parts. One are the components when you're creating, and one are the designs, your story bank that you have things that you have designed. And the result is that over time, creating impactful content aligned with your story, aligned with your mission, aligned with your impact, and grounded in the lived experiences of the stakeholders of your organization are always ready for you to go and create. And over time, it actually gets faster and more affordable and higher quality. And how many things in life get cheaper and better quality over time? So that's the idea. And then I'll just show you on my website things that came out of this project. So for example,
as a kid, you're like writing that sucks, reading that sucks. Uptown Stories as a whole community brings that kindling to the fire to say, you know what,
I think you can recognize the interview in there, but what happens after it? Here's another one.
as a kid, you're like writing that sucks,
All different
reading that
versions.
sucks. Uptown Stories as a whole community.
And not just video, right? Here's a poster. This came not as necessarily out of the interview, but I would have never arrived at this thought if I didn't have that conversation with Sienna. So it all comes out of these interviews. And here's a little back behind the scenes video, just a quick little Instagram post. This actually happened in the video by accident with the reactions, like when you do a little heart and they like pop up. And Kate, the person below, is the executive director. And she said, you do something day after day without knowing the impact. And because she was a part of this interview, she got to feel that impact. And that is what storytelling is all about. So the last thing I will leave with you here is an offer, which is that I teach this process as a step-by-step. So if you go to my website, Beyond Client Work, if you go to live classes, I teach this process and other processes, and I just invite you all to be a part of the upcoming class if you'd like, which is a week from today. You can reserve it for $75, but because you all are members of the nonprofit cooperative, you can use this offer code that I will put in here in the chat. And this is 20% off. So I think it'll be $60. It's 90 minutes. The offer code is is members. And you'll get live learning on Zoom, project demonstration, hands-on exercises, a step-by-step PDF workbook so that all the things you forgot you can bring back to your team and remember, the class recording, of course, each other, and you can retake it as many times as you need within the next 3 months. So I'm planning on launching more and more of these courses in the first quarter of the year. I would love to have you all here so that we can go from like me introducing the idea to you actually getting your hands in there and doing stuff. And then I'm going to look to see if there are any questions here. Viviana, thank you. Brilliant use of Canva. How do you ensure the other teammates? Yes, don't irreversibly edit a story in your story bank. What kind of governance, versioning, permissions can Canva provide? I think that's a great question. I think it's less about what Canva, oh, the link, thank you. Yes, here is the link to the website. And if you click on the little red button for the class, it will take you to this Stripe page. And don't forget to put in your coupon if you're going to join us for 20% off, which is members. Yes, versioning is very important. In most small organizations, what generally I find happens, and I would love to hear from you all, is you have somebody who is actually responsible for creating the content, but everybody wants to kind of come in and use things, pull things out as they need, and then they're like, oh, this isn't exactly what I need. I want to make changes. And when I build these content libraries, I also build a guide for everybody on the team about how to go about doing that. And versioning, never editing, unless you are responsible for the content library, unless you are the marketing manager, the director of communications, whoever is responsible can do what they need to do. But everybody outside of that needs to make a copy of something when they use it, unless they're going to use it as is. That's like one of the kind of things that I institute in a guide I will provide to the team. And of course, it's based on the size of the team, the dynamic. Yes, everybody. But what's nice about this is that instead of the free for all where everybody starts doing whatever they need to do, because you've made it so easy to create new assets and to pull specific design elements, specific messaging. Of course, you've got your brand loaded in there. It puts guardrails on everybody. And it does it in the best way possible, which is it makes it harder to do the wrong thing. And it makes it easier to do the right thing, which is to use the components that have already been built. And of course, the guide will help. So I know we're about out of time. I just want to see I've never used Canva. I do not even have a login. Everyone thinks so. Does that? Yeah. So Michael, you should sign up for Canva. And it is free you can get a Canva Pro account for nonprofits for free. And get comfortable with it. You can join the class. The class is less about using the basic to use Canva on a basic level. It's more about this system. But there are so many resources that you can use to like get up to speed. And you don't need to know Canva in and out in order to learn the system that I'm teaching, which is less about how to create content in Canva, as much as it is more about how to make your Canva look like this and fill it with the material that you need. And by the way, I just want to put my email address because I am always learning, as you all are, as we all are. And any reflections you have, anything of like, yes, this is me, or no, this isn't me, but I would love to hear from you. I would be happy to jump on a 20-minute call with anybody who joined and just get a sense of what your needs are. It's always informing my classes and it's always informing my work, and I try to give back as much as I can. So thank you all for joining today. I really appreciate you, and you know where to find me.
Thank you so much, Joey. We do appreciate you and the time that you have spent just being here today. I am sure everybody will love hearing from you again soon, but we especially do appreciate you.
And I'll hang on just in case anybody wants
Yeah.
has a question or wants to chat.
I think this was really informative, and I think your class is going to be amazing.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, Bobby. I should probably start introducing myself now that I think about that.
Yeah, and maybe changing your the name.
Yeah, I always log in using Danette's account.
Viviana, how does this affect designers? There's one part that I haven't mentioned yet, which I'm not sure if you're aware. How this affects designers is I think it gets the entire organization on one page. I think that's the biggest impact. But the other thing that I'm excited about that I haven't mentioned yet, because it's the next step, is I don't know if you've heard that Canva just bought Affinity. And Affinity is works with Canva now and is just as good as Adobe apps. So using this system, um, it's kind of like a separate thing, but because of this news, you can build this Canva system and still have access to applications that are more professional than Canva that can help you do things that Canva can't. And it actually works great with Canva and feeds right into it and can be edited in Canva. And that's a part of the systems that I build. I just didn't bother mentioning it this time, but um, between the two things, between getting the entire organization centralized on one content library and having access to pro level apps at the same time, I think is like an absolute game changer for designers, content creators, and storytellers, marketers. Oh, yes. I didn't mention cost as I meant to. The nice thing about this, so I mean, if I come in and build this for an organization, obviously I'm a service provider and there's a cost to that. But what I'm talking about today is DIY. And the nice thing is that Canva has no cost. You can start with Descript for free. And that at most, Descript with a nonprofit discount is $12 a month. But again, you can use it for free. And Zoom you can use for free. So up to 40-minute interview. So this actually was a key piece of information that I did forget to mention. So you can create this entire system, and the only obstacle is your time, maybe a little bit of a learning curve, but there's no ongoing cost associated with building it. And at most, maybe like $12 a month if you really love Descript and you want to use it all the time, or you use it for the month that you need it, cancel it, and get it again. So extremely low cost, if not free. Thanks for the great questions, y'all. Okay, if anyone, I'll wait just another moment, see if anybody else has any questions. Otherwise, this has been great. Thank you.
And we'll have the recording live within the next hour on our social network as well. If you guys just want to come back to see this again.
Okay, Janae, thank you so much for facilitating here.
Anytime. Happy to have you.
I
Alrighty, so
guess,
everybody must have a wonderful afternoon and a lovely almost weekend. And then we will see you at our next event.
thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.